Okay, great. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. Very warm welcome to our 17th FoC session. For those of you who may be joining us for the first time, FoC, or the Future of the Commons, is an informal collective, something we started about a year and a half ago. So this is a small group of people. We gather every month to discuss various topics related to the digital commons. We've had a series of monthly sessions so far on everything from digitization to AI, Indian languages, archives, a range of topics, all really coming back to that main idea of what is the digital commons, what are sort of current developments, affordances, challenges facing the digital commons today. So this is, as I mentioned earlier, this is our 17th FoC session. And we're very excited to have with us today an artist and creative technologist, Computational Mama. Her work explores code as a practice of care, which she models through facilitating communities for creators to learn code. She also works deeply with AI, searching for intersections between motherhood and AI, and she is currently building spaces for non-Western feminist data sets in AI language models and helping artists make their own solar-powered AI servers. So we will learn more about this in her talk today. She's been a 2025 Godrej Design Fellow with Nanditi Kilnani, 2024 Research Fellow at Pro Helvetia, um, 2021 Processing Fellow, and 2020 Be Fantastic Fellow, a speaker at HEAD Geneva, NYU, Shanghai, many spaces actually. And she's also been featured in a number of spaces for her work, especially around generative AI and also her artistic work. So I think just a short introduction, but I would leave it to the speaker to share more about her work. Over to you. Yeah.
Thank you, Sneha. Thanks for inviting me and OKI and CIS teams. I'll start by sharing my slides, but I'd be really happy if you're okay with it also, Sneha, if people don't mind opening their cameras, because then it gives me some feedback on how people are responding to what I'm saying. And I'll try my best to kind of address all sorts of folks here and not be too technical. But if you feel like you want to talk more about the technical stuff or talk less, you can kind of like add in the chat, and I'll try my best to kind of keep it accessible to everyone. Oops, I don't know, I clicked something accidentally. Maybe. Can you guys see the
slides? We can see the slides.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect.
Okay,
Super.
great. Yeah, and for whoever is comfortable, of course, please feel free to switch on your video.
Okay, so I'm Computational Mama, and currently I've moved to the Netherlands, but of course I've lived in India all my life. I'll just run you through a little bit of what I've been doing. My work is kind of at this intersection of AI, care, and motherhood, and also code. I think maybe I have to update this animation, but for now I'll move ahead. But to give you some context, I actually started my career as a museum designer and project manager. I worked on really big and small scale projects of narrative museums, which basically means that it's not focused around objects, but rather around larger stories that are told through, specially designed spaces. So this is the Viraste Khalsa in Anandpur Sahib in Punjab, which is like over 1 lakh in square foot in just exhibition space. To a very, very small museum, which unfortunately now is closed in Jaipur, which is the Rajasthan Rural Arts Program, it's like 1200 square feet, so it's that small. Um, and around this time, I started to explore technology and coding a little bit. I was also expecting during this project and during a specific bout of being on bed rest, I kind of thought, okay, let me learn a little bit more about creative coding, which has kind of been around for a while. And this is usually me with, now my son is 8, but I would be coding on the side, and my kid would be asleep. Um, and over the course of this period, I co-founded a small studio with my friend Nanditi. And Nanditi and I both work together on building creative spaces on the web for cultural institutes and our own projects as well. So here on the left, you see a small project we did for two artists in Puerto Rico on queer monuments, where anyone can come and make their own imaginary monument, share a memory about it. This is an interactive that we did in Godrej Conscious Collective this year, where you can use your finger movements, and the rain kind of music plays along with it. Also we've done small playful exhibits for like the St. John's Medical Museum, where you can learn about the history of typhoid through walking around as a little character inside this map and learning about how typhoid affected the city and its urban planning. Aside from this, we also do workshops where we teach people how to use code to learn about music and visuals. And it is, sorry, it's maybe I should pause it. I think the video is going a bit fast. Where you learn to do it together, and we kind of try to break a lot of ideas about who, what, how, and when you can code. So when we do workshops, usually, we tell people, hey, let's sit together on the floor. Let it not be this kind of very didactic space for learning. In the end, after the 4-day workshop, typically where you've visited the city, collected sights and sounds, come back, learned how to code, we also encourage everyone to do a performance, but we also like them to do it together. So the idea is that you're not just learning something new, but you're also learning to collaborate simultaneously. And this practice has now kind of formed a little collective. So if you invite Nanditi or me to come and give, say, a performance, we don't do it ourselves. We open it up to anybody who's been part of our cohort to come and perform with us. And over the course of that time, we were able to get a fellowship from Godrej last year to kind of expand this idea of what it means to look at coding, creativity, and design in Indian contexts. Because typically, when people talk about technology and design, either you only think of like flashy UX on Figma, or you end up thinking of very Tron legacy kind of sci-fi images. But we wanted to see what that could mean if the practice was rooted locally. So we visited 3 cities, we did lots of master classes, and in the end we did a performance in Bombay. And also we made a small board game which you can play together with your friends and learn how to code together as a group. So this is still in the making, of course, but we've been play testing it in Bangalore, and I think also in Anand University in Anand University is in Ahmedabad, sorry. Yeah, and then finally I also, okay, so this also I do is that I work with GUI.ai, which is an AI for impact startup, and we've been doing a lot of work around language evaluations. This is a little bit more technical, but the idea is that most language models that we use today, like ChatGPT or Claude or whatever else, they're all trained on English data. Which basically means that if I ask a question in Hindi or maybe a more obscure language, it may not be able to respond at all because it's not understood it. So there are these layers of translation and audio transcriptions that we chain together, and we've been working with the Gates Foundation and other collaborators to evaluate what models are working well in which city, which country, and which language. But today I'll talk a little bit about my project Sunshine's Bright, which is a solar powered like DIY AI server that I built on my mother's rooftop. My mother is also here. Thanks, mom, for joining. But typically, like, I like to think about all of the work that I do with this simple model from a slide I picked up from the artist Alison Parrish. Like, who gets to use what you make? Who am I leaving out? How does that? How does what I make facilitate or hinder access? What data am I using? What systems of authority am I enacting through what I make? And what kind of community am I assuming? So by kind of not very directly, but I find that many times my practice revolves around these questions, and I always like to show this slide to others who might be interested. So now, as of course now we are in this post Gen AI world, and for me the excitement about technology is not just about trying and making things, but also really sharing it, and sharing the process of others to be able to use and learn it as well. So I'll just talk a little about this project called Sunshine's Bright, and what I've been doing with it. You can ask me more questions if you feel there were some gaps in what I said. So what I've been really looking at is, like, everybody talks about like machine learning, learning data training, but I was like, okay, what is this idea of a community learning model? Like, what can a community, not necessarily an underprivileged community or a language based community, but any kind of community, can come together and have their own language model, and what does that mean? uh, so uh, it starts fairly simple, where there is a, like, very simple, 1,000 rupee solar panel which I bought off Amazon, which I connected to a Raspberry Pi. A Raspberry Pi is like a credit card sized computer. It was originally built for children's education, but people have found, various ways to use it in robotics, other parts of industry as well. But they are these really amazing, like, tiny computers, which can pretty much do all the things that we use our current, consumer software for, but consumer hardware for. But it's like at a fraction of the price. So this Raspberry Pi, which you see here, is about 8,000 rupees, whereas a laptop will at least cost us, 25, 50, 30,000 rupees, just even to run simple YouTube and a bunch of slides. So in that sense, it kind of started at that point to see what I could do with it. And at the time I was living in my mother's house, which is in Udaipur, and we have uh, more than 200 plus days of clear sky, which is a lot of solar energy. So it was just an experiment. And what it does is that it connects to the solar charge controller, and there's a backup battery. So in the day, the computer, this little Raspberry Pi, uses solar energy, and in the night, when there's no solar energy left, the battery, which had kind of got a little bit of power through the day, kind of supplements it. Um, but what I've learned very quickly is that because these are really small computers, they run only what are called small language models, which is basically, think about it in the easiest terms, is that you, as an adult with experience and education, and your experiences across your time, are a large language model. But say, for example, my son, he's a small language model, he's 8. He can speak clear English or clear Hindi to you. He can communicate what he wants to, but he doesn't have all this experience of data. So, like, say, perhaps if you ask him what's the capital of Delhi, of India, he may say Delhi. But if you're going to ask him the capital of a more obscure country, he may not be able to tell you. Even I may not be able to. But that's the whole idea, that a language model is basically lots and lots of information in textual form that kind of is distilled into this black box system, and it pushes out words based on what you have asked it. So it really depends on how much infrastructure one puts. So the larger the infrastructure, the larger the model. The smaller the infrastructure, the smaller the model. Of course, our brains don't extend really big. We are not going to be mega mind. It will still contain here. But if you need to run this in digital formats, of course, when people say cloud, it is in a certain place that it's running. So when I was testing these models, I realized very quickly that their responses didn't seem to have the kind of uh, ethos or critical philosophies that were dear to me, not even close. So a simple question like who was the emperor of Rome can still give you some answer. But as soon as I asked who is Gayatri Spivak, who's a fairly well-known scholar, it immediately started like kind of quote unquote hallucinating an answer. Now, hallucinating an answer is as simple as you're in the exam hall and somebody told you that whatever the question might be, just put something in the answer section. Don't leave it empty. So that is exactly what hallucinations in language models are. They don't have the capacity to stop themselves and so say, no, I don't want to answer this. They will always give you an answer, even if it is a made up answer. So that's what that hallucination is. So I kept trying this with different models. This one I think is called Tiny Dolphin. This one is called Tiny Llama. I have not built these models. They are available free on the internet. So I just kind of downloaded it and ran it on this on my little Raspberry server, and it would always give me these really random responses, like, you know, Spivak is known for a bunch of essays called Translating the World, and sometimes it'll say she's a poet, sometimes it'll make her a he. It could really go anywhere. And then I even tried it with a much more popular author, Ursula Le Guin, and still it was not able to give me a real answer, which was really funny because I feel like so many technologists love science fiction and fantasy novels, and Le Guin is like one of the most famous people. So I would have thought at least her essays would be in, but unfortunately they were not. But to me, like, once I made these trials and I was like, okay, where is this going? I think, as I already mentioned, the excitement is always to be able to share it with others. So uh, through Marcella, who's a professor at NYU Shanghai, I was able to like do some test workshops where we got our own solar panels, and we got a bunch of Raspberry Pis, and we tried to build our own little servers. Here you see some of the students and teachers trying to figure it out together while eating pizza. So it seemed to me that it was an accessible enough idea to try, and I've been kind of doing more workshops around this to see what's possible in this format. And then the other part is to understand that now that I know how to host this model, I know how to like do it on my own little server. What would it mean for me to have my data in this model? And what is that when I say my data? What could that mean? So I've been thinking about, okay, if it's not able to answer these silly questions about Le Guin or Gayatri Spivak, can I train it to know all of these things? Just like maybe perhaps, as I gave an example, I can teach my son certain things, by reading a bunch of books with him, or the teachers are anyway doing it in school. So I started thinking about this data, and to my mind, I think, and in many conversations, I find that when people talk about this idea of data, they just assume that you can just take the entirety of lots of text and just like dump it into some kind of a program, and voila, a language model will appear. But actually, the labor of building these language models is really, really high. And of course, many of you may have already seen this in articles and other kind of movies and videos where people talk about the labor of this and how it's associated with places where they can really exploit labor to get all of this work done. um, so I thought, okay, let me try to prepare this data on my own and see what it could do. So with the help of my collaborator Samira, she and I decided, okay, we're going to take like 100 of the coolest people we know who are women and from non-Western backgrounds, and see what is the simplest data we can like feed the model about them. So like it could be someone like Feifei Lee, or it could be someone like Toni Morrison, or some people in the middle somewhere. So it's very simple. It's like, who is this person and what are they most well known for? Uh, and then we also did a bunch of tests where we were like, okay, if I have an essay, and if I were to make, say, like a summary of notes, and then have a question, and that also becomes some subjective data that we can share. So that's kind of akin to me asking, okay, sorry, one second, what does it mean for what does it mean when Le Guin says this is the idea of carrier bag theory of fiction? So then I will make up a subjective answer. So I wanted it to learn a little bit about that too. But obviously, I only own a very simple laptop. I mean, I don't even have a very latest one, and I can't train these models on my infrastructure at home. Of course, I cannot train it on my little, 8,000 rupee computer either. So I found out something which is called fine tuning, and where someone has a language model already, and you just take a very small portion of it and you train that portion with your own data. uh, Again, I'm going to give a very silly example, but like think about it like I'm an artist and I can draw fairly well. Suppose I can draw only average, but and someone comes and tells me, hey, here's a pile of images and they are all in this style of like black and white ink drawings with very sharp contrast. Can you learn how these are made? And then I'm going to come back to you with a new bunch of ideas and let's make some new drawings around it. So really fine tuning is just that. So you're training the model with its existing knowledge, but you're just adding this little extra layer and saying that, hey, learn this, and then once you've learned this, we'll come back and try to do something like this. So that's what I've been doing. I've been fine tuning models, and I've also like done workshops around this. um, Turns out it was not as difficult as I thought. And again, as I mentioned, that the labor of creating the data is actually much more extensive and time consuming than training a model. But then it really made me feel like, okay, but why my data and my model? So I think now at this point, I want to really open out this idea and see what it would mean if we can collectively come together as creators or researchers or practitioners and maybe create our own data set of 500 question answers and then just quickly train these models and see what's possible with them or not. I've been documenting all of this on my website at solararchive.cmama.xyz. So if you're interested in knowing more, there should be some information available there. And lately, I've also been thinking, like my project is called Sunshine Brights. There is solar power in the model, but it's still not allowing me to go outside and chill. I still have to sit on my computer inside the house. So hopefully, through the next few months, my thought is that I'll be able to make a little portable server that you could use anywhere. But that's just me thinking aloud. But yeah, now I think I'm happy to say thank you and open it out for questions as people need. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much for that, very comprehensive overview of, I think, a lot of different projects actually, and the last one, of course. I'm sure we want to know more about this. I can already see hands up. I think that is Suyashji. Yeah, please feel free to go ahead, unmute, and you can share your question.
Yeah, first of all, like after very long time, I can see someone who is uh, coming from like the same background. So, by the way, let me introduce myself. My name is Suyesh, and professionally, I am a electronics product designer, having some 30 years experience. And and by the way, uh, you maybe know like there is another project that is Internet in a Box, which
Yeah.
actually hosts, yeah. So I'm in the hardware designing team of Internet in a Box. Again, I can understand the challenges of Raspberry Pi being very expensive, especially after the crisis of RAM. So this particular device, its cost is just 1,800 rupees plus that thing. And I would also like to share one of the initiative I have done, that is hardware tool supporting for Wikimedia projects. So anything, any hardware like Raspberry Pi, Internet on a Box, and there are a couple of other hardwares as well, which can help literally in scanning thousand number of pages. So the mechanized systems for that. So super excited to learn more about your project, and maybe I don't know how I can contribute my experience to your project. Any challenges regarding to solar power charging, and I know there are a couple of other silly, like weird things. It happens when you charge via solar, and it also depends. Like the country is in India where temperature goes sometime 40, 45 degrees centigrade, then it makes very crazy things. So anyway, like I'll also share my Telegram ID so that we can connect. But thank you for sharing this work.
Thank you so much, Suji. That's really nice. I think for my portable one, I'll definitely
Yeah.
connect with you to understand what's possible. Thank
Yeah.
you.
So, hi, uh, my name is Pavan. So I'm generally a content person. Like I create content, I write content, maybe a little more data. So I just want to understand like how can we be of help, like particularly people who create content, and how can we collaborate?
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Sneha. This is so amazing. This is like the first time I've spoken. Everybody wants to like look at collaboration, so that's very exciting. Yeah, I'd be happy to like I can share with you how we do the data set preparation, and if people are interested in like collectively doing that as a group, it will be really interesting because I think I mean, so much of my time goes in figuring out the hardware and coding pieces, and also I do this project when only I have time. So it would be great if people can help me with like thinking about content that they would like in their language models, and how we can prepare that data and maybe see if there's a space, and perhaps somebody will give us a GPU and then we can even train it. But but yeah, I think that's really where I'm looking at when I say community learned models, and see what's possible if we kind of build these from our own data, because I know like there are all the big guys, they are doing it in really strange and like kind of bizarre ways. Like I believe now Claude and Open AI and all these people, what they do is they'll first go scrape everything, they'll train it, and then they have a whole department that sits and calls up old bookstores and buys those books out, so that they can later claim and say that, hey, oh, we had this book and we just typed it or scanned it and then we used it for our training, and they backdate the bills, all of that also. So sometimes I find these things really bizarre, but they're still missing out so many things that we think are important in our knowledge lives. So perhaps I'd be really excited if people want to get together and do this together.
Right, just checking, yeah, Pavan, if there were any other responses to that. Otherwise, we have a question in the chat. Yeah, we could move on to that one.
Okay, Rasagya is asking, are there other projects like your solo project that explore low energy approaches for AI? What are some ways you benchmark performance of this? Oh my God, Rasagya, you know me. How can I even think about benchmarking? So yeah, so these are the places where I have been figuring things out, because for example, I know there are some small computers that can do the power benchmark, but Raspberry Pi can't. So now I have to connect it to something called INA 219 or something. I don't know, Suyashji, you might know better, to see what can be like that power draw. Some really simple silly things happen, that sometimes you ask too many questions to the language model, and then the power draw is too much and the Raspberry Pi crashes, not because it can't handle it, but purely because the solar power couldn't handle that much draw. So those are also funny things that do happen. uh, I mean, since I'm now in the Netherlands and here there's a huge focus on wind energy and it is so windy, I have been considering what that could mean here. But I also find that here it's very common for homes to have large solar power, just like how we do now in India everywhere. So I really don't know what that could mean. But yeah, definitely small models have really low draw. For example, day before yesterday, Google announced the new Gemma models, which run even on phones. So like one doesn't even need a Raspberry Pi. Perhaps an old discarded Android phone might be good enough to run this. So I mean, there are so many ways to think about it. People in Netherlands are even making energy out of mud. I don't know how, but they are. So yeah, I guess it's raining, so it's always muddy. So yeah, there are like perma computing things also happening, but yeah, I mean, I really don't know who else is doing this, but if you do, please let me know, and if you want to help me with benchmarks, let me know.
Thank you.
Thanks, you're always there in my call, so I'm always appreciative. Thanks, Rasanga.
Right. I think Maya has a question about, I think just wanted to know more about how you came to this. Maya, I don't know if you want to share anything more by voice. Otherwise, yeah, maybe you can
Thank
speak a
you
little.
for hosting this. So please say more about your backstory, actually. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, nothing. I mean, about the project specifically, or just about me?
I was thinking actually about the fact that Udaipur also has, Swaraj University, and Barefoot is sort of close by. So I feel like there are some forces that might perhaps in your neighborhood, but I don't know if they influenced you. So that's why.
I mean, they influenced me as a teenager. I would say that for sure. And I mean, we've all known about the stuff happening at Barefoot, and I don't know. Mom was like dad there for a bit. I don't know if he was. He was in Tilonia. Is it the same one? So and uh, I think primarily for me, because I was exploring so much with AI and like dataset biases, and which meant that I was like calling these APIs all the time. My stress was suddenly becoming that, oh my god, I'm really like, am I endangering the planet by every time I'm making these calls for my like quote unquote experimental work? So I just thought, what if I could just host this on my own and see where it goes? And I think one of the primary inspirations for this being solar, like being possibility as a solar, were two projects. One is called Solar Protocol, which is not an AI project, but rather they are looking at like web servers in the same format with a Raspberry Pi and a solar panel, and then you can be networked across the world on them, which is run by Tiga Brain and Alex Nathanson in the US. And there's another one in, I think maybe it's in Germany, where they run a magazine about how you can use low tech for your production. It's called Low Tech Mag. Maybe I think they're all listed on my website, but maybe I'll just try to also uh, give those links. So yeah, those are kind of, I mean, they had all the resources to figure those things out. Like, hey, this is how you connect this. This is what you do. Blah blah blah. But one of the surprising sources for me was uh, vernacular YouTubers who are electricians in small towns, who were like explaining to people how to connect that solar panel which they can buy on Amazon to their internal, appliances, because in India power cut is so common. So, and many of the European solutions that are documented were not kind of working with our electrical whatever connectivity. So that was really good. So like they were like, रूफ पे ऐसे लगाओ, ऐसे तार कनेक्ट करो, ये वाला गेज खरीद के लाओ. So that was very useful because perhaps without them, I would have just kept thinking, oh, how do I get this on Amazon, and not really dig any deeper with trying to figure it out. So yeah, and of course, Shabir uncle, my local electrician, who also got me a lot of the parts and told me which wires to use. So yeah. I don't know if that answered your question, but
Yeah, thanks. Thanks. What is, yeah, I think Subodji has a question in the chat about scalability, right? What is scalable, hardware or process idea application, or both? And also about beneficiaries. Who are we thinking of when we're building these
yeah,
models?
I mean, quite honestly, for these experiments, I only start by thinking about myself. Very, uh, I mean, I can be really honest about that. But what I figured is like, I mean, I can see that particularly because my access is to the creative communities, I can see that many people are interested in using many technologies, but are extremely wary and stressed out about this kind of big tech and its general narrative of, just kind of steamrolling everybody. And uh, I really enjoy just trying to explain to people that, hey, you can do it yourself, and these are the ways that you can. So I'm really not thinking about like scale in terms of like technology and how it can scale. Uh, but I mean, I've everything is on the website. If somebody wants to take it for forward and do whatever they want to. I mean, happy to like help them wherever I can.
Sorry, I have a direct response to Subodhji. Subodhji, definitely this is 100% scalable because Wikimedia Font Wiki Project Med is, allowing like they have provided this internet in a box particular device, the similar kind of device to Wikipedia Foundation store, and even this particularly solar powered any server or any device is really very helpful, especially in India where challenge is not only the power cut but the places, let's say the Himalayas or the the hilly places where the power is really very good, big challenge. So we can definitely use it. And by the way, I'm again coming back to the internet in a box because it can provide you, anyone can access all the Wikipedia articles, even the health related articles, with the free, like you need not to connect with the internet because the server which hosts itself in the internet in a box, it provides you a hotspot so that more than 20 to 30 people can join and they can freely enjoy the knowledge. So, and but like she said, like she's also trying to build it very compact. So if we can make this solar powered servers or LLM model trainers in a small package, then it will be definitely a scalable model. Yeah.
Thank you.
I had a question actually when we're thinking about scalability also, right? I was trying to understand whether a model like this would also help with making domain specific models, right? So does that, is that again something that we could aim for, or do we see a limitation there as well, right? Something like this would work, for instance, for something like traditional health or something that's very, very domain specific and has precise data sets, a community that actually works actively around it. So can we see that as a potential end goal?
Yeah, I mean, it's very doable. I mean, because I'm limited to my consumer hardware at home, I'm not able to like train models from scratch. I can only do like a fine tune. So fine tunes have limitations in terms of like what are the kind of like knowledge bases that you can add and how well it can like understand that factual, like it's easier to train it to be like polite every time or like answer like a pirate or something really silly, but it's sometimes tougher to give it like factual data to retrain on a fine tune. But you can do it from scratch. There are other ways, like now it's very common to do what is called a retrieval augmented generation, which I think works better because then if you update your database or knowledge base, it's easier to add that rather than retraining a model which is fairly cost and energy inefficient. So those also work really well. And at GUI we also like try to see, like we've been assessing how well a language, like maybe it can do a translation really well, like literally, but like does it understand the essence of what that question is? Sometimes those things really get lost in language models more than the just the words coming stringing being strung correctly. I don't know, Sneha, if that response works, but yeah, you can try it if you want.
That's helpful. Thanks. Yeah, just checking for any more questions, comments.
Yeah, hello, I'm Subodh here again. So
Yes.
I was just thinking that we, the Wikimedia communities in different languages, are creating lots of knowledge, whether it on Wikipedia in the text form, then on Commons, different media files, videos, etc. And on Wikisource, we are uploading hundreds of books. So we are creating content, but we are not, in my opinion, we are not producing or processing knowledge out of it. So it's open to the society. Whoever wants to use it, they will use it some other day, might be, or the LLMs might use it. But if can we empower these few communities, interested communities, individuals, to process this knowledge and bring some creativity into it. Like, I see your work as more creativity focused than hardware or any language model. So how
Correct.
we can empower them or
Yeah, I mean, that's
instigate
really
them
my
to
focus.
more creative.
Right. My focus, Subodhji, is this only, that I like to teach people how to use these technologies. And I mean, for me, then sometimes that question is not so much about the openness or the, fairness of where that technology has come from, but rather if they can use it, then they make that choice and understand. Because if chat gpt is helping somebody write to their funder and email in english without hesitating, I feel that's totally okay. Like, why do we want to stop people from using a technology to help them in some ways? If it's helping you, like you have a 1 lakh grant and 20,000 is going just to translate it into english, your weekly reports, why can't we just use an available technology that may not be open? So I'm still kind of in the middle. I'm not so extreme about what's being used, but rather just sharing that agency with anybody who would like to learn about it. So even thanks to my mother and a few other people in Udaipur, I've been able to even teach people in the field level about what AI is and how they can use it. And like, they're using it in the way they prefer it. So I think you're very right. Training is really important, because it's like they always say, you can bring, what is it? You can bring the horse to the water, but you can't make it drink. Or I don't know, maybe that's the wrong expression. Yeah. But maybe like you can teach a person to fish, maybe a better one. But yeah, so I feel like if people learn it, they can use it. If they have access to it, they can use it. But if it's lying somewhere in a inside a free repository, the only thing that we can expect is that OpenAI and Cloud are going to scrape it and use it for their own good, without any acknowledgement, without any funding back to those sources, and just like pure extraction. So then that's up to us how we want to take that forward as a community. So like, really, you know, all of that glam wiki data of museums and everything that the last 10 years so many people have put effort to put up, if it's just going to be scraped by cloud, I'm a little bit stressed about what that could mean. Thanks, Subodhji.
Yes, just to quickly respond to the question in the chat. I understand we have consent for the recording to be shared. So we will be putting up this recording on our website. So you can access the full session on our FoC website, hopefully in a week or two. Yeah. I think just to add to something, I mean, what we were discussing right now also, right? I think definitely the creative part about, all of this for me is, again, the most fascinating. But also I feel in terms of thinking about how to optimize resources that are available, right? Rather than, I think for a long time, we've always imagined that AI can only be built a certain way. You need to have a certain kind of infrastructure. You need to have the resources. Not everyone can do it. Countries in the global south, for instance, will have to wait their turn before we can build something at that scale. But I think we don't necessarily have to think of technology always at a certain scale or meant for a very wide group of people, right? So I think thinking about scale in a different way, thinking about the communities that we want to address. And like you rightly pointed out, what are we using the technology for? I think that also becomes a very important sort of question here. And I think that for me is, again, the most interesting thing about SLMs, because but it really sort of brings these 2 or 3 questions together very effectively. Yeah. And I think in the Indian context in particular, it becomes so much more important when we're thinking about limited resources, infrastructure, but again, a push for, let's digitize, let's build these big models, because we have to compete. So yeah.
I think we can really take advantage of this stuff. Like even now, Nvidia, I believe, announced few weeks ago that the next whatever GPU that even for like regular gaming is going to come out in the next 2 years. So this is like a real like mineral and like hardware resources crunch that we're going to see very soon. So the faster we adapt to our own ethos of like being jugadu about things and figuring things out as we go, like the easier it might be for all of us. And of course the people who need to think at the higher policy level will continue to think at scale perhaps, but uh, I feel like if I can do it without any engineering degree, with the resources on the internet, most other people can like figure out where they want to sit in this idea.
Right. And just quickly to add, I think the unsaid but very explicit point that, stood out for me in all of this is, of course, the conservation of resources aspect of it, right? Because I don't think a lot of the thinking that we're doing around AI for that matter, or a lot of uh, emerging technology especially, has been sort of foregrounding the need for resource optimization or conservation of limited resources, right? I mean, I know the climate conversation, the sort of resource crunch, what we spoke about, the specific materials that we need, the energy we are consuming. Those conversations are definitely happening, but I'm not sure if we are really thinking about it as and when we are thinking about how we develop technologies. So I'm just thinking aloud here, if more of such these efforts were to be undertaken, they would effectively kind of also help address that conversation, because it's an important one. It's something that needs to happen right now, right? So yeah.
Yeah, maybe if all developers should do creative stuff and all creative people should do development stuff, something might emerge in that cross section. So yeah, so I'm hopeful. Thank you, but Sneha, I think it's important that I get space to talk about these things because I don't have that kind of institutional backing otherwise. So thank you so much for inviting me.
Right. Sorry, I was speaking on mute. Yes, just quickly checking if there are any other questions. I think Sharika has left a comment in the chat as well, in the point on the environment. And yes, I'm interested in collaboration to help with training data, etc. So that's great. Yes, thank you so much. I think we can wrap up the call then. I don't see any more questions or comments. Great. So thanks very much to our speaker, Computational Mama, for joining us today, and joining us, I think, at short notice as well. So thanks so much that you were able to join us and we could organize this session. We look forward to more of your work. See, how the project progresses, and I'm sure many other things that you are thinking of. And thanks so much to everyone who make it to join us this afternoon. Yes.
Thank
All
you so
right.
much for hosting. This is wonderful. And hopefully people can reach out to me. Maybe, I don't know, here I'll just put my email in this chat box. And then,
Yeah. Great. There you go. So I think you can reach out to Ambika directly. Yes, and the recording for this session will be available soon. And yeah, we will be back next month with another FoC session. So thank you so much. Thanks,
thank
everyone.
you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Do I need to wait, Sneha? Or?
No, No, I think we're good. I don't see any questions.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks so much, Ambika.
Thank you,
you
Sneha.
for
Thank you so
taking
much.
that. Bye.